Hello everybody. If you want to read all the stories in full, please go to www.steveuk.blog. Thank you. Short story 337, The Clockwork Heart. Intermediate. The antique shop was a labyrinth of forgotten things. Dust motes danced in the weak sunlight that filtered through the grimy windows, illuminating chipped porcelain dolls, tarnished silver teapots and stacks of yellowed books. Elias, a man with eyes as grey as the London sky and a face etched with the lines of a troubled past, wandered through the aisles, his fingers trailing across the cold surfaces of discarded memories. He wasn't looking for anything in particular, just a distraction from the gnawing emptiness within him. Then he saw it. Tucked away in a dark corner, beneath a pile of moth-eaten tapestries, was a small, ornate wooden box. Its surface was intricately carved with swirling patterns and strange symbols. Curiosity piqued, Elias lifted the box. It was surprisingly heavy. He opened the lid. Inside, nestled on a bed of faded velvet, lay a mechanical heart. It was crafted from polished brass and copper, with tiny gears and springs visible through delicate glass panels. The heart pulsed with a soft, rhythmic whirring sound, like a tiny clock ticking within its metal cage. Elias was mesmerized. He felt an inexplicable pull towards the strange object, a sense of connection he couldn't explain. He bought the heart, of course. The shopkeeper, a hunched old man with watery eyes, barely looked up at him as he rang up the sale. He simply muttered a warning. "Some things are best left undisturbed." Elias dismissed the old man's words as the ramblings of a senile mind. Back in his small, cluttered apartment, Elias placed the clockwork heart on his bedside table. He spent hours studying it, fascinated by its intricate mechanism. He noticed that the heart's rhythm seemed to change depending on his mood. When he was calm, it beat steadily and softly. When he was agitated, it raced. One night, Elias woke to find the heart glowing with a faint, eerie light. The whirring sound was louder now, almost a frantic ticking. He felt a strange sensation in his chest, a tightness, as if his own heart was trying to keep pace with the mechanical one. He tried to touch the heart, but an invisible force pushed him back. Over the next few days, Elias became increasingly obsessed with the clockwork heart. He neglected his work, his friends, his own well-being. He spent all his time staring at it, listening to its rhythmic ticking, feeling its strange influence on his body. He began to feel weaker, colder. His skin grew pale, his eyes sunken. He noticed something else too. Small, almost invisible wires were extending from the clockwork heart. They were thinner as spider silk, and they seemed to be reaching out, exploring the space around them. One night, Elias woke to find one of these wires wrapped around his wrist. It was cold and metallic, and he couldn't pull it off. He felt a jolt of electricity surge through his body. From that night on, the wires multiplied. They wrapped around his arms, his legs, his chest. They burrowed under his skin, becoming part of him. The clockwork heart was no longer just an object. It was becoming integrated into his very being. He felt his own heart slowing, weakening, as the mechanical heart took over its function. One morning, Elias looked in the mirror and barely recognized himself. His skin was grey and translucent, his eyes hollow and lifeless. The wires from the clockwork heart were now clearly translucent. His eyes hollow and lifeless. The wires from the clockwork heart were now clearly visible beneath his skin, tracing intricate patterns across his body. He could feel the gears turning inside him, the springs coiling and uncoiling. He was no longer a man of flesh and blood. He was a machine. He looked down at his chest. The clockwork heart pulsed steadily. its rhythm ticking, filling the silent room. It was no longer just keeping time, it was keeping him alive, or rather, it was keeping him functioning. The antique shop's owner's warning echoed in his mind. Some things are best left undisturbed. But it was too late. The heart had found its home. Vocabulary notes. Labyrinth, noun. A complicated, irregular network of passages or paths in which it is difficult to find one's way. A maze. Example, the antique shop was a labyrinth of forgotten things. Meaning in context, the shop was full of winding aisles and cluttered spaces, making it easy to get lost. Similar words: maze, warren, complex network, tangle. Example using a similar word: the old city was a warren of narrow streets and alleyways. Motes, noun. Tiny particles of a substance, in this context, dust particles. Example, dust motes danced in the weak sunlight. Meaning in context, small particles of dust were visible in the light. Similar words: specks, particles, flecks. Example using a similar word: specks of dust covered the furniture. Tarnished, adjective, of metal, having lost its brightness or luster. Example, tarnished silver teapots. Meaning in context, the silver teapots were dull and discolored due to oxidation. Similar words: dull, discolored, rusted for iron, corroded. Example using a similar word: the old coin was corroded and difficult to read. Etched, verb. Cut or impressed, a design or words, on a surface, can also be used figuratively to mean permanently marked in one's memory or on one's face. Example, a face etched with the lines of a troubled past. Meaning in context, the lines on his face were deep and pronounced, as if they had been carved there, showing he had had a difficult life. Similar words: carved, engraved, imprinted. Example using a similar word: the memory of the accident was imprinted on her mind. Piqued, verb. Stimulate interest or curiosity. Example, curiosity piqued, Elias lifted the box. Meaning in context, Elias's curiosity was aroused, so he lifted the box. Similar words: aroused, stimulated, provoked, awakened. Example using a similar word: the strange noise from the attic provoked her curiosity. Inexplicable, adjective. Unable to be explained or accounted for. Example, an inexplicable pull towards the strange object. Meaning in context, he felt a strong attraction to the object that he couldn't understand. Similar words: unexplainable, mysterious, puzzling, incomprehensible. Example using a similar word: she had an inexplicable feeling of dread. Senile, adjective, of a person, having or showing the weaknesses or diseases of old age, especially a loss of mental faculties. Example, Elias dismissed the old man's words as the ramblings of a senile mind. Meaning in context, Elias thought the old man's words were confused and meaningless due to his old age. Similar words: doting, infirm, aged, declining. Example using a similar word: his grandmother was becoming increasingly doting in her old age. Agitated, adjective, feeling or appearing troubled or nervous. Example, when he was agitated, it raced, referring to the heart's rhythm. Meaning in context, when Elias was worried or stressed, the heart beat faster. Similar words: disturbed, upset, anxious, restless. Example using a similar word: She became agitated when she couldn't find her keys. Neglected, verb, failed to care for properly. Example, he neglected his work, his friends, his own well-being. Meaning in context, he stopped taking care of his job, his social life, and his health. Similar words, disregarded, ignored, abandoned, overlooked. Example using a similar word. The old house had been neglected for many years. Translucent, adjective, of a substance, allowing light but not detailed images to pass through, semi-transparent. Example, his skin was grey and translucent. Meaning in context, his skin was pale and thin enough that some light could pass through it, making it look almost see-through. Similar words, semi-transparent, diaphanous, pellucid. Example using a similar word, the curtains were made of a translucent fabric. Story written by Google Gemini 2 AI. Images created by Designer AI. To read all the stories in full, please go to www.steveuk.blog. Thank you.
Hello, this is Steve. If you enjoyed the story, please would you take the time to leave a meaningful comment and click on the like icon. If you want to know when the next story has been uploaded, please click on the notify bell icon to be notified. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and tell your English learning friends so they can benefit too. Thank you.